So let's talk about jazz. Where does this sound even come from? You gotta go way back. Back to New Orleans, turn of the 20th century. Think of the city like a big gumbo pot. You got all these ingredients simmering together. You had African rhythms, the kind that survived the brutal journey of the Middle Passage. You had the sorrow and soul of the blues, born from the hardships of the field. Then you stir in some Caribbean spice, the syncopation from places like Cuba and Haiti. Add a little bit of that European brass band tradition, the marches and the formal structures. All of it, bubbling up in one place. The pain and the party, all in the same breath. Then came the Great Migration. Black folks moved north, looking for work and a better life. And they took their music with them. They carried it up the Mississippi River, to places like Chicago and New York. This is the 1920s, the Jazz Age. Prohibition was in full swing. Speakeasies were popping up. Jazz, the perfect soundtrack for a fast-paced, rebellious era. And right in the middle of all this, a trumpet player from New Orleans arrives. A young cat named Louis Armstrong. He changed the game, completely. Before him, jazz was mostly collective improvisation, everybody playing at once. Louis stepped out front. He turned the improvised solo into an art form. Armstrong's Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings, the blueprints. Go listen to West End Blues, that opening cadenza, a declaration of independence for the jazz soloist. And his singing, that rough, gravelly voice. He basically invented scat, using his voice as an instrument. This was the time of the Harlem Renaissance. Jazz was the heartbeat of a massive explosion of black art and culture. The 1930s hit, and the world changed. The Great Depression cast a long shadow. People needed an escape. They needed something to dance to. The music got bigger. The small combos of the 20s grew into full-blown big bands. This was the swing era. It was the most popular music in America, maybe the world. You had sections of instruments, trumpet, trombone, saxophone, all playing together, creating these powerful walls of sound. The rhythm section also evolved. Guitar replacing banjo, string bass replacing tuba, the drummer driving the band. Cats like Gene Krupa weren't just keeping time. They were driving the band with explosive solos. It was powerful. It was polished. It was designed to make you move. Duke Ellington, the composer, the painter of sound. Count Basie, the Kansas City sound. Bluesy, riff-based, deep groove. And soloists like Lester Young. Cool, relaxed tone that would influence generations. Swing was king, and these were the guys sitting on the throne. By the mid-1940s, some of the younger musicians were getting restless. The swing era was great, but it was also commercial. The arrangements were set, solos were short. After their big band gigs, they'd slip into small Harlem clubs, Minton's Playhouse. They started a revolution. They called it bebop, or just bop. It was fast. It was furious. It was complex. Dense harmonic notation, thorny melodies over standard changes. Tempos were blistering. Solos were long and virtuosic. Charlie Bird Parker, the soul of bebop, Dizzy Gillespie, the architect and charismatic teacher, they played like nobody had before. Harmonic and rhythmic sophistication light years ahead. It scared older players, it confused the public, but it recentered jazz on the small group, re-establishing improvisation as the core. Thelonious Monk, quirky, angular compositions. Kenny Clarke shifted the pulse to the ride cymbal. Bebop was the birth of modern jazz. After the fire and fury of bebop, a new mood started to settle in. Some musicians, especially on the West Coast, started searching for a different sound. A sound that was more relaxed, more lyrical, more subdued. If bebop was a hot, crowded city street, cool jazz was a late-night drive along the coast with the top down. The sound was softer. The tempos were often slower. The solos, more melodic, focused on tone and space. The key document is an album called Birth of the Cool, recorded in 1949-50 by a nonette led by a young trumpet player named Miles Davis. He worked with brilliant arrangers like Gil Evans to create lush, complex soundscapes. Out on the West Coast, players like Chet Baker became stars with fragile trumpet tones. Groups like the Dave Brubeck Quartet experimented with odd meters. Take 5 became a huge hit. Cool jazz proved modern jazz could be popular without losing artistic integrity. It brought new listeners and showed jazz had many faces, many moods. And from here, jazz kept evolving, led by a man who never stood still. You can't tell the story of modern jazz without putting Miles Davis at the center. He was a pivot point, a visionary who never stood still. In the late 50s, he put together what many call the first great quintet. John Coltrane, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones. Then came Kind of Blue, 1959, the best-selling jazz record of all time. It introduced modal jazz. Instead of rapid chord changes, improvisers explored modes, giving players more space. In the mid-60s, he formed the second great quintet: Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Tony Williams, even more adventurous. They deconstructed music from the inside out, playing with time, harmony, and structure. Controlled freedom, a conversation where everyone finishes each other's sentences. He kept changing, from bebop to cool to modal to something else entirely. His work inspired generations and set the stage for new explosions in jazz. And once again, Miles was the one lighting the fuse. His bands could play anything: tight, swinging, adventurous. Kind of Blue's influence is impossible to overstate. From here, jazz would plug in, and the world would never be the same. By the end of the 60s, the world was changing. Rock and funk were everywhere. He saw the energy and the power of the backbeat. Miles was listening. He didn't want jazz to become a museum piece, so he plugged in. He ran his trumpet through effects, used electric keyboards and electric bass. Multiple drummers laid down rock-inspired grooves. The result was a dense electric storm of sound. Bitches Brew, 1970, was the shot heard round the world. It was controversial and confusing to some, brilliant to others. Musicians who played with Miles helped form Weather Report. Chick Corea started Return to Forever, from Brazilian sounds to high-energy jazz rock. John McLaughlin's Mahavishnu Orchestra was blazing, complex, loud, and furious. Herbie Hancock's Headhunters mixed jazz and funk, smart music that made you dance. Fusion absorbed new technologies and rhythms, expanding jazz's palette. It was controversial for purists, but it opened doors to new audiences, and the music went global. While fusion made waves in America, jazz continued to spread and absorb global influences. Musicians around the world took jazz and blended it with their traditions. In Brazil, Antonio Carlos Jobim and João Gilberto created bossa nova, samba rhythms with cool jazz harmonies. Stan Getz helped bring bossa nova worldwide with Getz Gilberto. In Europe, Django Reinhardt had already created gypsy jazz, a local take that became global. Later, Jean-Luc Ponty and others brought electric violin into fusion. Dizzy Gillespie's work with Chano Pozo pioneered Afro-Cuban jazz. Cuban bands like Irakere mixed bebop and Cuban rhythms in mind-blowing ways. In New York, horn-heavy salsa, Fania, showed jazz rhythms' influence across genres. Local instruments and scales, accordion, kora, sitar, merged with jazz. Percussive polyrhythms deepened the groove, drawing from Africa, Latin America, India. This cross-pollination made jazz a universal language. You saw street-level jazz scenes everywhere: Brazil, Cuba, Europe, Asia. Modern artists keep blending local flavors with jazz, branching out in 1,000 directions. It became a soundtrack for a global village. Jazz came full circle, reconnecting with its roots while growing outward. So, where is jazz today, in 2025? The simple answer: it's everywhere. Its DNA is embedded in so much music. You hear its harmonic complexity in R&B, its spirit of improvisation in hip-hop, and its rhythmic soul in electronic music. The new generation grew up listening to everything: Coltrane and Jay Dilla, Monk and Dilla, A Tribe Called Quest. They study the masters and push the music forward: hybrid electronic jazz, neo-soul, spiritual orchestral jazz. Artists like Kamasi Washington make spiritual jazz on an orchestral scale. Robert Glasper blends jazz with hip-hop and neo-soul. Esperanza Spalding, virtuoso, original, boundary-pushing. Why does jazz still matter? Because it's the sound of freedom. It's democracy in action. Every voice gets a chance, but you must listen. It's the story of a people finding their voice, creating something enduring. From the gumbo pot in New Orleans to the world, the beat goes on.